The Meeples and Miniatures podcast is sponsored by Two Fat Lardies, Firestorm Games, and by the generous donations of you, the listener. Thank you to everyone for your continued support. We really do appreciate it. The Meeples and Miniatures podcast, episode 276. Gangs of Mortal Barons. With hosts Neil Shuck and Mike Hobbs, and guest Andy Hobday. This show was recorded on the 11th of September, 2019. Welcome one and all to the Meeples and Miniatures podcast. This is the show where you join the Brummy Dwarf and the Welsh Wizard as we adventure through the world of tabletop gaming. I am Neil Shuck, the Brummy Dwarf, and I am joined as ever by my trusty companion, the Welsh Wizard himself. It is Mr. Michael Hobbs. Hello sir, how are you?
Oh, hang on Neil, I've lost the script. Wait, hang on. Are we on page 2? Hello Neil. Yes, it is Mike here, the Welsh Wizard. How are you? Your line.
Oh well, mate. Although, as we were tweeting earlier, I'm wondering whether I'm talking to the Welsh Wizard, or maybe in this instance you're actually Bruce Willis.
I don't know. Come on.
Okay. For some strange reason, we got onto things like a second time around. Because you're talking, because you were talking about
time and space.
Time and space, and plus the because it's your fault for painting Primarchs, and I kind of went, kind of went, hang on a minute, didn't he? Wasn't he a winged monkey?
That was later on in his career.
Right. Oh, that was after the Taint of Chaos.
Yeah.
Right. Okay. And you kind of went, yes, this is second time. This is my second time around. At which point, I went all and of course, especially including the fact that it had monkeys somewhere linked in.
Yeah.
Monkeys, time travel, Bruce Willis, join the dots. You know.
Yeah, you went 12 monkeys, haven't you?
I did. Yeah. Which I'm not quite sure how many people followed that, but that was just the way my brain was this afternoon. And if you have no idea what we're talking about, you obviously don't follow us on Twitter. Why not?
However, our intros are getting much better, a bit more surreal, I think now.
Indeed. I mean, I was going to, I was going to call you the King of Black Pudding, but then we have to go all into Mr. Wibble and the King of the Potato People, which is just an entirely different surreal intro to the show.
Ecky thump, lads. Let's leave that for next
that
time.
was it. I was going to say that was my intro. It was going to be Mike Hobbs, who is now a blue belt in Ecky thump. And if you don't know the ancient Yorkshire martial art of Ecky thump, you obviously didn't grow up in the 70s. Yes, the TV series I was not allowed to watch because my parents didn't find it funny. Yes,
I did that. I did it this age ago. But anyway, we're not here to talk about the goodies or time travel and that. We're here to talk about wargaming.
We're here, as we said, we're here to talk about tabletop gaming, and we have in a packed program tonight. We are with our usual sections on confessions and hobby, what we've been up to. We are on our own for those sections because in a break with convention, we're back to the old style of Meeples and Miniatures, where we have a guest flying in specially for an interview. Unfortunately, he didn't have enough time to spend with us for the entire show. So later on in the show, we will be talking to Andy Hobday from Footsore Miniatures and other things, and catching up with everything that's going on in the land of Footsore, and finding out about a project that is due to launch. Well, it's probably launched by the time you're listening to this. So that is going to be the main interview for the show. So we will be chatting to Andy Hobday a bit later on. And Michael, you also wanted to do something else, didn't you? Now, following on from the last show, especially when we were talking about the whole issue with diversity and the issues that have raised their head. With especially with regards to a certain website, which appears to have gotten worse since our last conversation.
No comment.
Okay. However, as part of that, and to be fair, this is linking back to the whole reason this podcast exists in the first place. We're promoting the little guys in the hobby. We're promoting the slightly less established or less well-known companies. That's part of why I started this podcast in the first place. Everybody knows about Warlord Games, for example. Everybody knows about Games Workshop and all this because people have advertising budgets, and lots of them. But lots of people don't, or at least their advertising budgets are limited, but they're nonetheless talented, and perhaps more so in many cases.
Yeah.
So, moving forward, what we would like to do is to make sure that we keep promoting those companies. We may not know everybody who's around. In fact, I'm pretty sure we don't. And certainly it's a case of, even if we know of somebody, it is a possibility that we may not have bought a miniature from them. I know that is a strange concept to some people, but we don't buy absolutely everything on the market. I mean, we come close. Yeah, we do our best.
We do our best.
Yeah, yes, but we don't quite always get there. So, if you've come across a company that you've been really impressed with and you would like to give them a shout out, drop us a line. The contact's on the website, but it's normally info@meeplesandminiatures.co.uk. Drop us a line and let us know, and we will give them a shout out. And we'll have a section in the show where we'll be shouting out to small companies, and we'll make sure we have links in show notes, etc. moving forward.
Exactly. I mean, you could say that the small companies are the herd when it comes to the companies out there providing stuff for tabletop gamers. And we don't believe anything in the herd, do we, Neil? We believe the herd is big and strong.
Yes, indeed. Yes, it deserves not to be thinned.
Thinning is bad. If
it wasn't for the small manufacturers out there, I mean, as we talked with other people in the past, and I know, like, for example, Rich Clark has said in conversations with him, is that the creativity tends to be out with, smaller companies, because they have the bravery not to play it safe. So we like to strengthen the herd and show people, just what a talented and diverse hobby we actually have.
Yeah. And could I start with one? Could I make the very first of this new feature, which we haven't got a name for yet?
And we haven't even got a segment for, but okay, so this is for example.
For example. So, one of my favourite companies out there, I bought a few things from them, is Fenris Games. Small company, based in the UK, produces some fantastic resin stuff. They do 3D printing, they do laser cutting, they produce miniatures, bits, bobs, terrain stuff, plinths, all sorts of stuff. It's a cornucopia of wonderful products that can be used in any type of wargaming. I don't think they get as much. People don't talk about them that much, and they should do, because Fenris Games are fantastic. So if you want to have a look around a little shop, go to Fenrir Games, see what they got, and buy something off them.
Indeed, hugely talented guy, lots of stuff, and has done stuff that you may know of, but didn't realise it was them that did it. So, for example, if you happen to own a copy of Cthulhu Wars, guess who sculpted all the models? Excellent company. Lots of diverse stuff, but really good quality as well. Because especially when it comes to resin casting, definitely goes above and beyond to make sure that stuff is good quality when it comes to you. So you're getting a decent product.
Yeah.
Fenris Games will put a link in the show notes. Cool. And on that note, we will take a quick break, and when we come back, whoa, confession time. The Meeples and Miniatures podcast is proud to be sponsored by Two Fat Lardies, purveyors of the finest rules, supplements and gaming accessories for all your wargaming needs. Most recent in their offerings include the September War Anniversary Bundle, marking 80 years since the start of World War II. This is a 2-scenario book set for a 8-bin shotgun. In accompaniment to that, you have a free PDF download of Blitzkrieg in the East Part 1 Poland, which contains a number of army lists for I Ain't Been Shotman. This is a free PDF download. And a special offer on the Kriegspiel Compendium, rules, scenarios and a map for this classic wargame. Don't forget that you can get more Two Fat Lardies by viewing Lard TV on YouTube. The latest episodes include parts 3 and 4 of Taking the Gemblow Gap, a playthrough of General Darnay, Rich Clark finishing his build of the Blacksmith, and Sydney's Battlefield Challenge. Also, don't forget that for your listening pleasure, you can also download The Oddcast. It's available on Lord TV, but also via your podcast app of choice. Two Fat Lardies. Play the period, not the rules. Dearly beloved, we are gathered to celebrate and rejoice because it's been a cornucopia of different stuff is available, and yes, we have been taking advantage thereof. I've tried to be good. But
although you have just nicked the word cornucopia, which I've just used.
Indeed.
Yeah. I don't know. Can't even find his own words now.
Well, I was just making sure that if that was the word that Jeff had asked you to interject this week, I was just making sure that it was there, because you never know if that game is still going on.
It isn't, but now you mention it, you just realise that Jeff is now listening to this, probably on a drive to Bristol or back. Hello, Jeff.
Hello, Jeff.
And you'll be thinking, yeah. Let's get Hobbsy to say strange words.
Excellent stuff. Right. Well, okay. So what have we been buying recently? Not been too bad. Although, things kind of went a little bit south at the start of the week. Okay, so since Partisan, I was thinking, okay, I'll be good for the rest of the month. I'm fine. And then the other member of our gaming group, who doesn't get much of a mention, but it crops up from time to time. Mr. Richard Halford. Hello, Rich. Was chatting at work and said, "Oh, do you know anybody who wants do you know a good website I can use to sell games on? Because I need to get a couple of things off my shelf to make room for the amount of Star Wars Armada he's been buying recently." Right, okay. And so I kind of innocently went, "So,
what have you got? What have you got? What have you got? What have you got?
Perchance, what do you have?" For some strange reason, I find that I'm suddenly the owner of a couple of new games. Don't know how that happened, but no. Okay, so I actually got a copy of. It's actually the second edition of AVP: The Hunt Begins. Now, I am consoling myself with the fact that I didn't pay Prodos for it. I paid somebody else. Okay.
Good. Yeah, that's good.
Yeah,
that's okay.
So so I paid Richard for it, and it was a good deal.
Mm-hmm.
Most of the figures are painted.
Even better.
Although, I must admit, I don't like the way he's painted the Marines. However, I mean, do you know? I mean, I suppose this could be in the hobby section, but it could be here.
Mm-hmm.
Do you know of a way of stripping paint off that kind of restic material?
Yeah, Dettel.
Will Dettel do it without melting the plastic?
Yeah, it should be fine.
It should be all right. Okay, so try it.
Try it on one.
yeah, quite. Yeah.
You want a couple of days of Dettel. That's the good thing about it. It's low in paint. So, like some of the stuff you put on for about 10 minutes and you have to get off before it melts everything.
Yeah.
Dettel, you can leave stuff in there for a while. I put soft plastic into Dettel and it's fine.
Oh, okay, cool. That should be okay then.
But you have to use Dettel. You can't use a Dettel substitute. I tried that and it didn't work.
Really?
Yeah.
All right. Yeah. So it has to be Dettel trademark. Yes.
Yeah. Yeah, because I thought I'll just buy the Tesco cheap Dettel type antiseptic, stuff. It looks the same, smells the same, and costs about a third. Doesn't work.
How
I was most, but yeah.
Okay, so obviously Dettel has some sort of secret chemical ingredient.
It does, yes.
Yes. Okay, so at this point, someone will have to go away and read the and read the full list of ingredients and compare it to paint stripper, and see. Oh, that's common. Yeah, there we go. Yeah. Right. Okay. Oh, okay. Well, I'll give that a go then and see if that works. Okay. So, the alien, he's done a fab job with the aliens in there, and other than that, the rest of the game isn't punched. So all the floor plans and stuff aren't punched. So it was almost new, but with almost painted figures. So it was like, well, why wouldn't you?
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, and then as well as that, and this is your fault because you started talking about it.
Yeah,
he had one of the introductory box sets for BattleTech.
Cool.
So one of the ones with the 25 plastic mechs in it.
Yeah.
Yeah, and the two double-sided boards, hex boards.
Yeah. All the books and it's loads of stuff in that box.
Oh, it's tons.
Yeah.
Now, BattleTech has never been a universe I've really particularly been into, but I know you've been raving about it, and I know it's been around for a while. So I thought, okay, I'll give it a go and find out what all the fuss is about.
Yeah.
So, and it was a good price, and it was like, okay, I'll find out what the fuss is about and see if it's actually something that we'd play. So 2 games.
Oh.
And then.
There's more.
Oh, there's more.
Oh, okay.
Not a massive amount, but enough. And then on Twitter over the weekend, a certain Mr. Baldwin, hello Paul,
Hi, Paul.
Somebody posted up, went, "Oh, I'm getting rid of these. Anybody want anything?" I think I luckily saw that tweet almost as soon as it went up. I just happened to be on Twitter at the time.
What was that? Is False Makers or?
But it also included a couple of boxes of Perry plastics. It had a couple of some British and it had British and French infantry.
Yeah.
So I kind of went, how much do you want for those two? So thank you, Paul. I've got because in the back of my mind I do have Peninsula War Sharp Practice. That's something that I wanted to do ever since Sharp Practice has come out, and that's since Sharp Practice version 1 came out, and I've not gone around to it yet. So yeah, it was like a couple of boxes of Perry Napoleonics.
Can't go wrong.
Can't go wrong. I mean, obviously they joined the plastic mountain along with all the Perry's, War of the Roses stuff and everything else. But yeah, it's think of it slightly more long term. Okay, it might happen next year. We'll wait and see. Depends how. It depends if I paint them and get fed up of painting crossbouts. I mean, it's not that. I mean, I was looking at the force list. I'm thinking,
that many?
50, 60 figures aside.
Oh, less than that.
Well, I was just thinking with a bit of cavalry.
That's all.
Yeah, a bit of cavalry, maybe an artillery piece. Make sure we've got plenty of light infantry.
Don't bother the artillery. Yeah, just 2-3 groups. 24.
Yeah, but then if you don't do the artillery, you can't do. Oh, which one is it? It's not Sharp Seagull. It's the one after Sharp Seagull, isn't it? Yeah. It's the one where they lose the gun.
Neil, is this where you're going to do your usual thing of watching every single one of Sharp's? The series, work out exactly what figures you need, and then buying every single figure you need for every single one of those episodes, and then never actually paint them.
I don't have to do that because it's called the Complete Fondler.
Okay.
And yes, I have looked at it. However, I looked at it at the time because I obviously own it, and At the point, I think it was at one point. Because this is Sharp Practice version 2 has changed. I think in Sharp Practice there was one particular scenario that required something like 40 mounted dragoons, French dragoons.
Yeah. Don't do that one.
Yeah, that was a lot. So Anyway, okay. So
do 24 infantry with a couple of officers, and then say a dozen riflemen with an officer. Do that, and the equivalent for the French. That's enough for a game. If you like it, then do a little unit of cavalry each side, or do another couple of groups of infantry. Stop boiling the ocean. Small bits, manageable bits. Even a lesson. Get back to what you've been buying.
Yes. Okay, and other than that, one other thing, and this came out of left field because I wasn't originally. I don't know what made me look, but Lord of the Rings card game. There has been a recent release of a new deluxe version, but I think I ended up on Magic Madhouse's site, and I was looking, and I just looked to see what they got, and they happened to have a copy of the Grey Havens deluxe set, in which I hadn't got. That's one of the deluxe sets I haven't got. Basically, I've been a bit remiss over more recent years in collecting Lord of the Rings card game, so I missed some of the later box sets. So I'm going back and wanting to fill the gaps in. So I picked up the Grey Havens and Shadow in the East, which is the new one. Now, there is something I want to say. about packaging.
Okay.
Right. You know the size of the deluxe box set
Yep.
of Lord of the Rings card game. It's about what?
Yep.
An 8-inch square
Eight-
box, inch
Yeah,
deep?
about 8-inch square. Yeah.
Yeah, inch deep. Something like 8, maybe 10-inch tops box set.
Yep.
Inch deep. Right?
Hmm.
So
Got 3
why...
packs of cards in it.
Yeah, so... Yeah, it's got 3 packs of cards in it. So why send it in a cardboard box that you could fit a copy of Imperial Assault in?
Yeah, that seems a bit excessive.
I don't get it at all. So that seemed to me to be a bit excessive. I mean, I know Amazon is famous for this, but I thought, oh my, because obviously the first thing was, I got home and there was this box. It's like, oh my word, what have I ordered? I was like, oh, it's this. Oh, okay. So there you go. But yeah, so that's me. Lots of second-hand stuff this time round.
Yeah.
Both of us need to give a shout out at some point, but that's probably going to end up being a bit slightly later.
Would you want to give a shout out? Yes. Yes. Is it my turn?
Yes, go on then. Yes, we'll do the shout out at the end, but yes, Mr. Hobbs, carry on with what you've been up to, young man.
Well, I bought some 6mm World War II Russians from Outtro.
Oh, okay.
Because for Project Rommel Part 2. I bought a few packs. And I sent them
it's
off
Russians.
bought a few packs, yeah. Sent them off to Vlad in a little box. Dave, Vlad, can you do these? He went, yep, I've had a count up. There's 804 of them. Really?
I'm sure Vlad will enjoy basing 804 Russians.
Yeah.
You cruel person. Imagine inflicting that on such a good lad. Oh. Yeah. Vlad, I can only apologise for Mr. Hobbs.
Yeah, I mean, he has sent back the 6mm stuff, which I'll come on to in hobby chat. Remind me to stick with that. So, I met up obviously with Henry Hyde at a secret base somewhere near St Albans.
Yes.
And I picked up a copy of Fantasy Wargaming, the book from Henry, because it's one that Henry was getting rid of. And he said
yes.
And so it was a bit of a charity drive, so we sorted that out. And so it's part of my new little hobby of collecting books on fantasy wargaming from the 80s. So far, I have 3, which is Dicing the Dragon, Fantasy Wargaming, and Fantasy Wargaming. 2 different books by people like that. I picked up some more bases for Project Rommel Part 2. So thanks to Tony from Tiny Tin Troops. Very nicely cut me another 72 bases and sent them off to me. These are magnetized ones. 2mm MDF.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, so I got those. And then over the weekend, King of Dungeons has arrived from the Kickstarter.
Yeah?
Yeah, the hardback version of that. I've also got a softback version. So well done, Baz, if you listen. Yeah, King of Dungeons. Great little game. And then there's Aeronautica Imperialis.
What, all of it?
Not all of it. Most of it.
Most of it. Yeah, say it quick, it doesn't sound so much. Yeah.
Yeah. So I got the Wings of Avengers box set, which is a nice little starting. 9 planes in it and everything you need to play. I got the box. I got the 2 packs of cards, which are useful. They've got all the pilot characters in there and different weapon loads for your planes, and you can pimp your planes out and all of the stat cards for all of the planes. So that's useful to get them. Then I bought the Ryan's World Air War campaign book, which was quite surprising because I thought it would just be like a campaign.
Yeah.
A bit of fluff, a couple of interlocking scenarios, way to go. It's got the complete rules in there as well. Which means that if you've already got the old planes, then you could buy the campaign book and the card packs, and you can play the new game. Which I thought was quite unusual for GW. And they're not actually forcing you to buy the new version. Or buy the box set, shall we say.
Yeah.
I got that. I also got the Ryan's World Area Engagement Mat, which is a double-sided gaming board. And I also got some ground assets, which is a spiroplastic, ground-based sort of flak guns and objective things to blow up and things for scenarios.
Yeah, and things for your bombers to go after. Yeah. As opposed to just a grid reference.
Yeah. So targets for bombers or drop bombs on. That's about it, really.
Cool.
Say it quick.
Yeah, that was yeah. I must admit, we were chatting. We were chatting at the weekend, and you mentioned that you just got this playing game, and yeah, I am kind of tempted. At the moment, I'm kind of thinking, I'll back away for now, but it is on my kind of possibility list. If I have a moment of weakness, I suspect that it might end up in a shopping cart somewhere. Which I'll have to wait
the box set is well worth getting. Hold on, it's very nice,
and actually a very reasonable price for the starter box. What was it 40, 50 quid?
Yeah, 40. I think it's £50 retail.
Yeah,
obviously with discounts.
Discount and obviously extra discount if you listen to the show. Yeah.
Yeah, and buy from Firestorm Games.
Yeah, indeed. Yes.
Yeah.
So there we go. Cool.
I'm now debating whether I should buy a second box.
Really?
Well, this is my thinking, you see. Because I've got 9 planes, so there's 4 Imperial. So you get 2 fighter bombers and 2 main bombers, and then you get 5 Orcs, which are 3 of their sort of fighters and 2 of their bombers. Now, if I wanted to buy extra packs of bombers, they're £25 each a pack, which gives you 2 bombers.
What?
I think,
what? So it's £25 for 2 bombers?
Yeah.
Ow. Okay. That is quite expensive.
Yeah. So I'm thinking, well, if I want to get more bombers, if I bought a pack each of the Orcs, it's the same price as buying a whole new box set, which gives me more tokens, more reference sheets, more fighters. I mean, it's a bit of a no-brainer, really.
It is a no-brainer, isn't it? It is a complete no-brainer. I mean, the only reason to buy extra planes would be because isn't there a plane type for each faction that doesn't appear in the starter set? Am I right in thinking that or not?
There is for the Imperials. I don't think there is for the Orcs. There's a different.
I thought the Orcs had like fighters, bombers, and then there was a fighter bomber or a dive bomber or something. No, am I wrong in thinking that? Okay, cool. Never mind. Excellent stuff.
I'd have to have a look.
Right, and then he came on to a very nice surprise. Now, following on from our conversation from last show, I did happen to you picked up a copy of Dirt Side 2, didn't you? Off eBay.
I did.
Yeah, from somebody in the UK, as opposed to when I went and looked on eBay for a copy of Dirt Side 2, in a hard copy version. Yes, you had to pay an exorbitant amount of postage to get one from the States. At which point, friend of the show, Mr. Ralph Plowman, hello Ralph, popped up and went, I've got a copy you can have. So thank you to Ralph for very kindly sending me a copy of Dirt Side 2. But to my surprise, when I opened the parcel, that wasn't the only thing that was in it. And we had a complete GZG care package.
We did.
Which contained,
which was
5 sets of rules?
Let's got hold of some official versions of the game that John released onto the Facebook page. So this was the original GCAV, Stargrunt, the Stargrunt Weapons Manual, Dirt Side, and Full Thrust.
Yeah, the original version of Full Thrust.
Yeah. Rob's had them printed out on, I think it was on Lulu. And he got me and Neil a copy each.
It was lovely, yeah. In these lovely little, these lovely little A5 books, which it's almost like a retro gaming. Back to the age of A5 rule books.
Yeah, it's like proper back to the 80s.
It is, isn't it? It's brilliant. So thank you, Ralph. That was hugely appreciated. Thank you so much. Lovely surprise. And so
and we're so touched that we're going to have to get Ralph back on so we can talk about some Stargrunt and Dirtside. Do a proper review.
Indeed, that sounds like a tremendously good idea because although we briefly covered Dirtside, but we didn't really do it that much justice, I think. It's about time we revisited Stargrunt because it's one of the first sets of rules I ever reviewed on the show. And it's about time we got back together with somebody who really knows what they're talking about.
Yep.
So there we go.
So Ralph, if you listen to this, first of all, thank you very much. I'm sure Neil will say thank you any second now, much better than me. But also, start reading Stargrunt too because we need you to do a review. Sometime in October.
Indeed.
November.
Yes, something to look forward to. Cool. Right. Anything on the shinies?
No, I'm still intrigued by Black Seas. Which in a way, I see Wargames Illustrated are giving away a sprue of some of the smaller ships.
Yeah, that's sort of a pre-order, isn't it? That does look interesting. Yeah.
Yeah. Might be picking up a copy of WI, up and pick up a sprue and see what they're like.
Ah, yes. Well, my thing that's shiny at the moment, we're going to be talking about it later in the show. So, we'll talk about it a bit with our guest. We'll leave it at that. Okay. Cool. Well, in that case then, what we'll do, we'll take a quick break, and then when we come back, it's time to talk about what we've been up to in the hobby, what we've been gaming, and what we've been painting. Hi everyone, Neil here. I hope you're enjoying this episode of the Meeples and Miniatures podcast. If you are, I'm wondering, would you consider becoming a patron of the show? For as little as $1 a month, you can help support us in what we're doing with the show. For that, you can get access to a monthly question and answer show. And that will also allow you to ask questions. If you pledge more, you potentially get bonus podcasts. And you never know, you might even get invited to be on the show yourself. If you want to know more details, please follow the link to our Patreon page, which is on the front of the website. That's www.meeplesandminiatures.co.uk. Thanks a lot. Okay, so it's the time of the show where we talk about what we've been up to in the hobby, what have we been playing, what have we been painting. Well, from a playing point of view, had a few games now of Red Alert, with Josh, introduced into Red Alert, which he really likes. So that's good. And yes, yeah. Well, it's like, that's good. I've bought all the expansions, so you better play it. Yeah. But no, luckily, Josh really likes it, and yeah, we've had a few games of that. Yeah, that's cool. That's cool. Really enjoy that game. Yeah, impressive, and yeah. Oh, yeah, carriers are cool. Yeah, yeah. I mean, in last Friday's game when Josh advances his heavy battleship squadron within range of my carrier and 2 other fighter squadrons. Yeah, kind of discovered what the Pacific War was all about. Yeah, fighters. Although they are they're a bit of a glass cannon, they can really mess you over, especially have a lot of them. Yeah. So sorry, Josh, but that was fun. Okay, so we've been playing some games of that. We've had managed to get a couple of games of Gloomhaven in. We've had Mr. Luff available, and so we managed to remember where we are in our Gloomhaven campaign, because we haven't played it for weeks. But it is interesting. I mean, Gloomhaven is not a cheap game. What was it? The manga is 140 quid. But okay, assuming that we got like a 3-hour play window every time you play it, which is basically what we do. 2.5, 3 hours. We've now played it 28 times on this campaign. So basically you're looking best part of 90 hours of gameplay, and we haven't finished the campaign yet. So that's been good. I must admit, there are parts of it I am beginning to dislike a little, in the fact of, although it's a cooperative game, it also rewards selfishness.
Sounds like my sort of game.
Yeah, which at times, depending on who's playing and how they're playing, becomes a tad annoying. And then you've got my character. I'm playing it. Okay, for the people who know Gloomhaven, I'm playing the Tinkerer. Okay, and rather than go down the ranged damage dealer aspect, which I have done to a certain extent later on, but the other thing he does is heal. So he keeps the rest of the party alive while they'll do the damage. However, doesn't get a lot of experience for being a support class, and especially when your retirement condition is you have to kill a certain number of creatures. And in 28 scenarios, I'm not even halfway to that target, because my character doesn't tend to kill stuff. It tends to start killing. It tends to start killing stuff. It tends to get the ball rolling a little bit with ranged combat, and then when everybody else piles in, I'm, they're more, Neil, can you please keep me alive while I'm doing this? So
I just remember. I'll sort you out later. I'll sort you out.
Yeah, perhaps I'm.
Get them to pull back whilst you.
Yeah, perhaps I'm being a bit
Get
too.
them to pull back. You chuck in stuff.
Yeah, perhaps I'm being a bit too.
Nice.
I'm being too nice and being a bit too altruistic. Yeah. Well, I should go. No, it's like, oh, can I have a heal, please? No, go away.
No. Pull back. I'll shoot him. I'll get the kill. There you go.
I'm obviously playing the character completely wrong. Okay, right. Anyway, so played a couple of games of that, and then
just think to yourself, when you're playing it, what would Hobbs do?
What would Hobbs do? WWHD.
Yeah.
And talking of which, we had a game of Mansions of Madness,
Hey!
which was an excellent. Again, another scenario. We played the Gangs of Arkham scenario, which we hadn't played before. Which again was something. It amazes me just how within this, this set of game mechanics, it amazes me just how many different types of scenario that it throws at you. And again, this is something different. It's another kind of like whodunit sort of thing, investigation. But it's cracking game. And then I've also introduced Josh to Imperial Assault, which finally. So there you go. Been busy gaming. Lots of painting, not so much.
Oh dear.
However, I have done some, but whether or not it counts towards my figure count, I don't know. Because basically, what I've done is I've been doing some, because I kind of got stuck on the miniature painting side. I went back to the other thing that I really enjoy doing, which is scenery. Now, you may remember back over May Day Bank Holiday, I painted all most of the miniatures for Journeys to Middle-earth. I decided that I wanted to do all the scenery in 3D. So basically, I bought some stuff. I bought some. This is when I went to Thor Million. If you remember that German website that does all that wonderful metal and resin scenery. So I bought some statues and some tables, and then I've made some several little rock formations and several little bits which are basically bushes. Made the bushes out of I was using lichen as opposed to clump foliage. I thought I had a bag of lichen. I thought I'll see what that looks like, and it looks pretty good. I was really quite impressed with it. I thought, that really works. Isn't it crazy how when you're creating like rocky outcrops or even like small rocky outcrops, you pick up a rock that you've picked up, out the ground, and you stick it on a base, and you go, that doesn't look like a rock. You've got to paint it to make it look like a rock. Isn't that just bizarre? That just putting a rock on a base and then doing the base, it doesn't look right. You have to paint it. Anyway, so I've been doing scenery, and then you may remember from Partisan, I bought the Dark and Deep Dungeons set from Warbases. Which is I think I might be saying it's the first major product that Glenn at Warbases has done. He's been working on it for about a year, and he still has hair, which is apparently a surprise to him. Because anyway, I thought I'll put that together because as I said, I wanted it for the walls for Journeys to Middle-earth, but also for Rangers of Shadow Deep and other bits and pieces. Oh, which reminds me, I actually forgot something I failed to confess. I'll say that in a minute. So I built the Dungeon Starter set for Dark and Deep Dungeon, and I just want to point out that it is a brilliantly engineered MDF set. Because normally when you're constructing MDF, you normally have to have your scalpel and maybe a file on hand for perhaps the odd piece that where tab A doesn't quite fit into slot B.
Mm-hmm.
So Dark and Deep Dungeon Starter set is, I think it's either 18 or 20 sheets of 2mm MDF.
Ooh.
Everything fits together perfectly. Absolutely spot on. Now, when you consider that the way the walls and the connectors are designed, you have walls which are effectively hollow, so they have connectors between the walls, and then they have a top and a bottom, but the ends are open because they slot into connectors.
So you have these connectors that either have 2, 3, or 4 connection slots, depending on whether it's a straight wall or whether it's an L or a T or an X, depending on how many walls you're putting together. And some of the connectors, some of those connectors are quite complex in the way they're put together, because obviously all the bits have to slot into holes and what have you, and everything fits together, and then the walls have to slot into the connectors.
Yeah.
And I just want to say, everything goes together without a single piece. I didn't have to amend any single piece of MDF while I was assembling it.
Oh.
I was really impressed. And then the sheer satisfaction. One of the things about building Lego is just the sheer niceness of putting bricks together.
Yes.
The way these dungeons construct, where basically you end up, you slot the wall into the connectors, and you slide it in and then click, and it just slots in, and they all work, and there's no, the slots have to be tight, in order to hold, for the whole thing to hold together, but they're not too tight that you. There's a knack to putting the whole thing together, but they're not too tight that you can't, there's problems with actually fitting everything together, or they're not too loose that, they just fall apart when you pick them up.
Mm.
A brilliant kit. I was so impressed with it. Now, obviously, you might have an issue when you come to painting, because obviously when you've got fairly tight slots, put a coat of paint on, and that might start causing a couple of issues. So I'm going to have to see what I do with that. Although at the end of the day, I suppose it's just a case of you just leave the ends as bare MDF. It shouldn't affect it. But I just want to give a shout out to Warbases and Glenn for just a brilliant kit, which is the Dark and Deep Dungeon set. Wonderful. Really impressed with it. Okay, and just the confession that I forgot was that I also picked up the latest fantasy miniatures released from Artisan, which were 3 Rangers and a couple of Revenants. Because
3 more Rangers.
3 more Rangers, because yes, to go with all the stuff from North Star, because they were really nice, and so I have. I have an army of Rangers. I think I have enough to have almost a complete saga force of Rangers now. But having said that, both the Artisan and the North Star ones are very nice. So I think that was it for my hobby bits. I think it is. Yes. So, Mr. Hobbs, over to you. What have you been up to, young man?
Not a huge amount of gaming. Been over to the forest a couple of times. The 4 of us got together. We've been playing Fear and Faith, which is by Andreas. I can never say his name.
Filigoy. Yeah.
Filigoy. Sorry, Andreas. So it's a game by him.
That's in the kind of
Songs of Blades and Heroes type.
Songs
game.
of Blades and Heroes, yes, but it's the horror version, isn't it?
Yeah, it is. So we played that. So we had a cryptic message come from Mr. Slade who said, "Turn up at my house. You don't need anything other than some dice." And we got there, and he put out this huge, great village with churches on the outskirts and graveyards and gypsy encampment with gypsy dancers on fire and all of these civilians wandering around. And we showed you that we didn't play this. So there's a lot of things on the table. And so we sort of mixed up the rules a bit. and made it fast flow, but it was huge fun. Yeah, probably one of the best games I've played this year, if not the best game I've played this year. Beautiful scenery, living table, great figures, painted up to the slates, high standards, and a fun game. You know, I forgot how much fun the sort of Songs and Blades of Heroes mechanics are. And then this week after, we came back for part 2, where we had to try and get up to a haunted mansion to try and rescue the 2 maidens who we lost in the first game, which got overrun by vampires. And again, we played the rules pretty straight off about all the clicker counts. But it just, again, fantastic game. Thank you, Matt, for putting that on. And when I get back from my holidays, we're going to have the 3rd part, which possibly, from what I understand, does incorporate the Dark and Deep dungeon you just mentioned. Obviously, Mr. Slade has probably got painted by now. Go with him.
Yeah, I mean, I've got this. Yeah, it's on my list to get painted.
Yeah, good. Yeah. Right, so that was past playing games. I've had some orders to me for my 2 living painter chaps. Both World War II Germans. So Vlad did the 6mm for my Project Mono, which I mentioned. Lovely, really nice quality from Vlad. I see a bit of camo than 6mm. Which did surprise me.
Camo in 6mm.
Yeah.
I hope it was accurate P smocks.
It was a bit, yeah. And Gareth also, he had an order for 15mm Germans, which I got for my sort of late war battlefield games. So I haven't got many Germans for late war or many infantry. I got like a Panzer company, bit infantry short. So I picked up a 15mm company from Battlefront and sent them over to Gareth with some artillery crew. So they've all come back again, fantastic quality as you would expect from Gareth. So 2 good painters doing fantastic work for me. Thank you, chaps. Right, I've been doing a bit of painting and stuff myself. So I've been carrying on with my 1,000 Suns for my Horus Heresy project. So I've got all of the infantry done now for them, and I've only got about a dozen vehicles to finish off 1,000.
Okay, so can I ask, dare I ask, how many figures that actually is?
That is a very good question, and I'm glad you've asked it.
The sound of somebody turning around and counting and counting figures.
About 500 figures.
500. Right, okay.
That includes sort of small vehicles.
Yeah.
Oh, there's a few tanks in there as well.
500.
The one base of 5 is about.
Yeah. I've managed to paint a bit of scenery. Yeah, well done, Neil.
Well, I haven't done the last 2 weeks. Take me a couple of months.
Yeah, even so. That's huge. Well done, mate.
Yeah.
That's a fantastic effort.
Yeah, it's lovely. Lots of red. I've used half a pot of contrast paint on this. I've also started Project Rommel. And I've done 65 bases of Germans. So that's infantry bases, tank bases, artillery, all sorts. They're all on 70 by 50 bases. And I've got like sort of little dioramas. Tank bases, I've got 2 or 3 tanks on them.
Yeah, they look fantastic. I was really impressed with them, mate. They're doing a really good job with those.
Yeah, considering I did them over the long weekend, I'm quite impressed. Yeah, they were really good fun to do. It's just, I mean, I was stealing Mr. Beamish's wonderful ideas from his blog on how to do this sort of stuff. But I don't know before because lad had painted all the infantry. I'd already painted all the vehicles, the guns, there's all the little scenery bits like the walls, telegraph poles, sandbagging placements, stuff like that.
Yeah.
So it was just really a case of getting some bases working. I was going to go on there, glue on the infantry, and then just use the basic material and my super flock and deluxe flock box to put the flock on. Although I did go have to have showers between me flocking them because I just got flock everywhere. I did all this. I did about 30 bases of flocking, and I sort of looked down and literally from my neck down on my t-shirt, which is covered in flock, just stuck there. So it was just a case of, well, I think it's outside. Shake the t-shirt off. Push it goes off. I'm covered in flock. Very itchy. Just have a quick shower. Throw the t-shirt into the washing machine.
I'm surprised Dobby wasn't covered in it.
I kept her well away from it. That cat's life. But yeah, that's pretty much what I've done. I've had a good, couple of weeks of painting and doing stuff. Oh, well, I painted up an aeronautic Imperial I was playing.
Cool.
Yes.
Yes, cool. However, there is something you haven't mentioned yet. Well, only in passing. Didn't you have a small visit to Lard Island?
Oh, yeah. Oh, good. I'm glad you asked that, Neil. Yes.
And and amongst other things, appeared on somebody else's podcast. Another person. In fact, you've been everywhere.
Well, in my defence, well, what happened was, me and Henry met up over Christmas, and we thought, we'd never played a game. Wouldn't it be great to actually play a game together? And then we thought, where can we go? So we thought, well, let's go to Lard Island. So we sort of dropped a mail to Rich and Nick, and they went, yes, come over, that would be fantastic. And then Henry was working on a series of articles for WSS, and he wanted to try out some river crossing scenarios. So Rich and Nick went, well, we can do that at ours. Comes out. So we had a bit of a day. So we got there early. I travelled it the night before and stayed over quite close. I think Henry did the same as well. And then got to Lard's HQ early doors for about 10 o'clock after a very nice breakfast. And then, we all met up, had a nice natter. And then we played, the first river crossing, which we did using Chain of Command.
Yeah.
With Richard and Nick's fantastic Russian and German stuff. So it's 1941, 42, early on.
Oh, right.
Barbarossa.
Barbarossa. Okay, cool.
Yeah. So I won the first game. You can hear more by listening to Henry's podcast that I was listening to. Then we had some nice lunch, nice sandwiches, Marks and Sparks, which was pushing the boat out. A little bit of elderflower champagne. Very nice. And then we played a bit of sharp practice in the peninsula.
Cool.
Where I got absolutely slaughtered by Henry. Absolutely decimated within about an hour. It was all over for me. Yeah. He did something audacious, Neil.
No.
Yes.
What did he do?
He followed. He channeled his inner Shuck. No. So I basically go. We had to hold a bridge. So I had 4 groups of British infantry, a couple of commanders, and some one commanders and German les support. So I basically charged on the table, ran up the road, straight across the bridge. There was a building just the side of the bridge. I left one group behind to give a bit of covering fire. And I thought, I'll put one group into the building to hold the building, and I'll swing out with the other two groups, form a huge British firing line, and, sort out those damn Frenchies.
Right.
I was in the middle of that, so I was still in column, and I got one group in the building. Henry brought on some mounted dragoons. He charged me.
The
He charged my
banger.
infantry. Yeah, with dragoons. I mean, you don't charge with dragoons. They don't really charge you with dragoons.
What? So he
I mean,
banged
we
it.
all looked at him thinking, he did a shot. He pounded in, smashed into me, and I thought, well, this is a bit silly. He's going to learn by his mistake.
But you were still in column, weren't you?
I was still in column. Yeah. Lost 4 men. Fine. Lost my senior commander, who was attached to the first base, rolled to see what happened to him, and he was dead.
Oops.
So I've now got 3 groups of infantry over a bridge, surrounded by French, and no commander. I mean, I did wipe out his dragoons.
Oh, yes.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Moral victory, I think. However, I had no chance of doing anything because I had no command and control. My only other officer was on the other side of the bridge. And then he got shot. So it just.
So you got all these troops milling around going, what do we do? Meanwhile,
What do we do?
Meanwhile, the Frenchies roll up, get into column.
Yeah.
Do the old, sound the old pas charge, and off we go.
They didn't even need to do that.
No?
Basically, just my morale just crumbled. And yeah, it was nice. So 1 game each, which is good. And then we took in some of the delights of St. Albania. We saw the Roman Wall. It was nice. You like old wars? Very nice to see. We visited a few pubs. We talked a lot of guff. And then we had a fantastic meal.
Which wasn't a curry, I was shocked.
No, it was Italian. There's 2 things I realised during that evening. One, Henry can speak a lot of French because when he was in charge of the French, he was basically just babbling away in French all afternoon.
Right.
But he's also fluent in Italian. Because at the meal, he was chatting to all of the service staff, the chefs, anybody he could find in Italian. So we had very good food. We got very well looked after.
I like it.
Yeah. So that was great. So, Rich, Nick, thank you very much for your hospitality, gentlemen. It was a fantastic evening. Must do it again. And Mr. Hyde, sir, thank you for the companionship. It was fantastic. It was great to actually sit down, play a game, and talk gaming with 3 of the nicest people you'll ever meet. Plus, we had a visit from Alistair from Balloon Gaming. A nice guy. Chat to him online. He's a lovely bloke as well. So, yeah, all round good couple of days. Jim couldn't make it.
You have my unbridled envy, mate. Yeah, I'm good. I would have so enjoyed being there, but never mind. Perhaps another time.
Yeah, the braised octopus you would have loved. Oh, it was fantastic, yeah.
Right.
Slowly braised away and then cooled and then they just char grill it. Oh, fantastic. Like a chili sauce. Oh, mate.
And on that note, I think it's time
there was
to...
bacon with as well. It was polenta, crispy polenta. Oh, and pancetta. So good, Neil. And those mussels and tomato sauce. Oh, truly fantastic, Neil.
The Meeples and Miniatures podcast is proud to be sponsored by Firestorm Games. Whether you need wargames rules, miniatures, paints, hobby accessories, scenery, board games, card games, all your role-playing needs, and even toys and collectibles, Firestorm Games is your store of choice. Check them out at www.firestormgames.co.uk or at their stores located in Cardiff, Newport and Swindon. Don't forget, if you use the code MEEPLELEAF, that's MEEPLELEAF, all lowercase, you will get an extra discount on your order. Firestorm Games, for all your hobby goodness. We'd like to welcome back to the Meeples and Miniatures podcast. It's Andy Hobday, friend of the show, from, amongst other things, Footsore Miniatures. Andy, welcome to the show. It's great to have you back on.
Oh, thank you for inviting me back on, Neil. I'm really pleased to be here.
Yeah, it's great to chat again. I mean, we tend to catch up a fair amount, but it's actually good to have you back recording. Last time we spoke, I believe it was when Gangs of Rome was being released, so it's been a while. So I think we've got a fair amount to catch up on. So one of the reasons, other than catching up on everything that's been going on with Footsore, if it also happens that you've got a little side project going on with a certain Mr. Paul Hicks.
I have indeed, yes.
That you've been teasing us with these lovely pictures for several weeks and months. And dratted you. I mean, I messaged Andy and said, there was I thinking, September's looking fairly quiet. I think I might be able to hold back on the budget a bit and what have you. And then you go and say, oh yeah, we're doing a Kickstarter in September.
yeah. I'm very pleased you won't be holding back as well, Neil. That's very kind of you.
Yep. You heard it here first, Neil.
It's one of those periods that obviously we'll come on to discuss this, but it's one of those periods when nights look like proper nights.
Yeah, I totally agree. I wax quite lyrically about it at Footsore to the point where I think my partner Mark Farr's a bit sick of it. But for me, it all ends as soon as they start putting on plate. So as long as they're wearing chain, and have a surcoat and all of that, I'm all over it.
It's that lovely piece, and of course, it's a civil war. It is.
Absolutely.
Everyone likes a good English civil war, and let's face it, we've had enough of them. Yes. So okay, so a teaser. We'll come on to that shortly.
Okay.
But first off, it's time to catch up with what you've been up to for the last number of months, and it's fair to say it's been fairly busy. So, first question. How's Mortal Gods getting on?
Very well. We're very pleased with Mortal Gods and the reception that it's had out there. Yeah, it's like, I think whenever we do games that we like to play ourselves. So when you actually decide, and it seems to have gone down very well. The beauty of Mortal Gods as a core set is the Greek. You're talking of civil wars. The Greeks are fighting the Greeks, and polis by polis. So by bringing out a box set full of Greeks, you've got two sides and away you go. But obviously there's other factions that you want to mix into there. So we've just brought out the Persian set, which will be really, I think, set 1, which gives you all of the core Persian troops. But as most of us know, it's quite a diverse army, the Persian Empire, and trying to do cards for all of it at once, that would have been a bit of a struggle. So the idea is we'll bring out further add-ons for that force, and you can either mix them all into the Persian force, or you can play them as their own. So, for instance, we're going to bring out Kushites and Nubians as a set, and you can then mix them into the Empire, the Persian Empire set if you want. So, and we're just finishing off with Etruscans and early Romans, and we'll just keep working our way, around the region, really.
Excellent stuff. So any armoured rhinos for the Persians on the horizon?
If I could sneak one in, I would. If I'm being honest, I'm all over the rule of cool. So that would be perfectly fine for me. I think we'll sneak some elephants in. People are asking for elephants and bits and pieces, so we will do that. But...
Because that's what you want in a nice skirmish game, isn't it?
Oh, totally. Yeah. Oh, yeah. Well, my argument for fitting an elephant in is, well, we're going to do mythic, so we're going to have some pretty chunky creatures in there. And an elephant is probably the same as a hydra, maybe. So it'd be very remiss of us not to sneak an elephant in, I think.
Yeah. So are you going to do a box set from Persians?
Well, good question. We've been speaking with Vitrix, and they are talking about doing some plastic Persians. So, but in the meantime, what we've done is we brought out the Athenian box set and a Spartan box set, which covers really the two sides of the argument. And what we thought is which were well received by people, but we had a lot of people saying, look, I've got loads and loads of Greeks, I've got loads of Spartans, I've got loads of Athenians. I just want the cards and I just want these bits. And initially, as producing a product, releasing everything in piecemeal would always make it more expensive because you're buying for sets and not individually. So we've held off, but we will release those elements, components of the box set. So what we've learned from that is that we should offer the option to buy in however you want. Yeah. So the initial idea was to do a Persian box set. So we would have a big box set, put stuff in it. It was going to be with the metals and the cards and the book and stuff. And then in the end, we said, look, people have probably got some of the old Wargames factory Persians to get them going, or some Persians from somewhere else. Let's just release some cards so people can start playing.
Yeah, I didn't notice those. They're going to go fit on the wish list.
So the cards are out. So you can, we're off. So there we go.
I do like Persians.
Oh, me too. And we've had Stavros Zouliati sculpt them, and he sculpted all of the Greeks for us. And having a Greek sculptor sculpting your figures for a Greek game, it just makes it so much easier because it is all of his history. So if I say, look, I'd like you to sculpt me some Sparabara aimed Persians, or can you do me, some Thespians, or could you just do some Trophians or whatever? I don't even need to send him any pictures because he just knows what it is. So we've got some really nice figures off him.
Yeah, nice.
Yes, he's disgustingly talented, isn't he?
And he is, and he's such a lovely bloke too. We love him to bits. And he's funny enough. Here you go. Here's a scoop. He's just finished Persian cavalry for us. So he's done a noble Persian noble on horse. He's just done a Persian archer, and he's just done some Thracians on horse as well, and they're beautiful.
Wow, yeah, because I know a lot of people have been asking about cavalry.
Yeah.
Well, I'm glad it's been a successful product launch. I mean, I know you were kind of when we were first when we were talking about it when you were playtesting. And you were saying you were kind of nervous because simply of the amount of enthusiasm around in the hobby, just when you're kind of saying, well, this is what we're doing next, and you were kind of going, I just hope we meet expectations. But
totally.
It seems that you kind of hit the target and then some.
I'd like to think so, and also, I mean, when we started with Mortal Gods, the idea was it was going to be just a hybrid of Test of Honor. Well, in fact, it would have been a direct port of Test of Honor. We even called it Test of Courage to start with. So the idea was that we would just change some of the cards, add some bits in, and off we would go, and the system would play the same. So for me, it was like, well, Test of Honor has been so well received and did so well, no little thanks to Warlord Games. And it would have been an easy way to just do that and add Greeks. But what we found as we played, I'm sure I talked to you about it, about testing it, it didn't feel right. It didn't feel like we were playing a game in ancient Greece. So it's kind of really forked down its own path, and lots of elements have changed. So it has become a different game. So doubly so in that instance where you think, hold on, we've just taken what we know to be a really popular game because people like the rule set, and we've taken that rule set and we've changed it, and we've put it in a period that people want, I always associate hoplites with mass ranked up miniatures. Are we on a hiding to nothing? So it was one of those situations where we thought, we've played it a lot, we enjoy it. Let's hope everybody else does.
So again, I suppose it was very much aimed at a kind of a Harryhausen-esque style, and hence all the flack you got when you were calling a group of 9 hoplites a phalanx.
Yes. Do you know what as well, Neil? We tried to come up with a different name so badly because I knew they'd want to burn me on the stake, and I couldn't come up with another name. And because we'd been for about 8 months, we'd been calling it a phalanx. Nothing else fitted. So I said, well, you may as well be hung for a sheep as a lamb, and at least people will understand what what the term of phalanx is. Yeah. But we called the skill formed up, so they're a formed up group of guys together. But look, I totally understand it's not a phalanx, but it's meant to show a locked body of shields. So yeah, I still chuckle when I think of it because I still get the stern look.
Really?
When out in public. Yeah. I still get that really stern look, and I'm like, yeah. I put my hand up. Yeah, I know. I should have called it phalanx. So there we go. But my argument is, I'm hoping that we're bringing people into this period, and hopefully they'll go on and play some bigger games. with proper phalanxes, with grown-up phalanx.
Excellent stuff.
Proper phalanxes, that.
Right, so, well, I mean, so are you planning to kind of make it a bigger game as such, or is it a case of just if people like the period, then they can move on to do something else, or as I say,
yes,
I mean, you're not kind of planning on expanding this too much, just kind of push the envelope to see how far you can, just how many troops you can have in command and all that sort of thing.
We've played bigger games with it. We've played 40, 60 troops, aside. What happens is, the only thing that makes the game different is time. It takes you longer to play a game with more miniatures, as we all know, So the rules are quite robust, and you could do that. But we, as a business, and for myself, who's producing games, I've made a conscious effort to make skirmish games. These smaller games where you can play within an hour and a half while you've learnt the rules, and you can pack it up and go home. Job done. Because I think a lot of us are really time poor when it comes to gaming. And one of the things I found was I got to the point where I was painting miniatures, I was reading rule books, I was talking a good game, but I was never getting round to playing a big game.
Yeah.
So this was for me, and I can't stress this enough. We're all gamers at Footsore, and we play every week. So the games that we're playing, these are the games that we want to release. So and that's exactly what we've done for Mortal Gods. So to answer your question, it really is it's a gateway into the period and into ancient Greece, and there's plenty of other good games out there to play, which are being written in a way that for bigger troops, so bigger armies, and I'd say go and knock yourself out and try those. I don't see us creating a big ancient Greece battle game at all.
I must admit that's kind of preempted a question that was in the back of my mind, considering some conversations that have been going on in the Twitterverse over the last couple of weeks. To say, at one point are you going to stop designing these namby-pamby skirmish games and design a proper war game?
No, good challenge.
No, that is said with my tongue firmly in my cheek on that one, mate.
No. Do you know what? It is. It's a good challenge. I don't think Mortal Gods is geared up to play a bigger game. However, we're going to talk about the Barons War and other stuff that we're doing. You could play bigger games with that set of rules.
Right.
Yeah. However, you saying that, I'm now looking at the Victrix African elephant.
Yes.
And yeah, that would fit quite nicely with some versions.
Yep, squeeze that in, sorted.
Yeah, definitely. That's
Well,
good.
you know, it's good that you like the Persians as well, because they could have a great chariot.
Oh,
So they're going to be
you
the
can have a
first.
chariot.
Oh, absolutely, yeah, they're going to be
yeah.
the first one with a chariot. So yeah, good choice.
Excellent stuff. Now, you've just come post haste to us from something else you've been doing regarding Mythic Battles. Sorry, Mortal Gods. It's not Mythic Battles at all. I'm preempting it. I'm preempting in my mind. It's already thinking. Right, Mortal Gods. Yes. So.
Yes.
Interestingly, considering your reticence to involve ninjas in Test of Honor.
Oh.
Welcome back to that.
Yeah, I know. I know that's a really sore subject, Andy, but I thought I'd get that in there. Yeah, so here we are. You're actually at the moment and looking at putting a mythic, as in fantasy, edge onto what is originally a historical game. Where did that come around?
I think we have Mr. Harryhausen to thank for that. Really, for me, I learned. You know, my first schooling in ancient Greece was those films, his films, and seeing the children of the Hydra's teeth as they came up out of the floor, and his the Hydra itself, or his version of Clash of the Titans. Well, the only real version of Clash of the Titans, really. I was always mesmerised by them as a child, and I can remember watching them on Sunday, with my sister, and just loving it all. So when we decided to do Ancient Greece, for me, it was a no-brainer to do a mythic expansion to it. Yeah. What we've done is we've done it in a way that it's a bolt-on. So if you don't want to add it, you don't have to add it at all. It's totally standalone. So you've alluded. I've just been playtesting this. I got back about 10 minutes before we started, and we're at the stage now where it's almost finished. So we're aiming to release it this year.
Oh, cool.
So towards the end of the year, we hope it's going to be our Christmas offer. Is the plan? We're going to release it around Christmas. We have a lot of the monsters already have been sculpted. So we have a Hydra, we have a Cyclops, he's looking around because they're all on his table. We have Medusa, we have her sisters, we have Harpies, we have Centaurs, we have Satyrs done. We've got some heroes done as well. So Jason, we've got the Argonauts. We've been discussing Perseus this evening. We've been talking about Pegasus. We've been talking about Hercules or Heracles, whichever way you swing. So all of this is done and it's been play tested. So we're very much looking forward to bringing it out. And the way that it will work is these will be additional factions that you can just add into the game. So you can play, a mythical faction, say a faction of Hera against a faction of Zeus, and they will fight because obviously they're the two major protagonists in mythical, with the gods. Or you can have a Hades faction, so you can have the undead. Or there's another, they're the children of Hades, or you can have, the beasts of Hades, and you can fight them against them. Or you can take a faction which is made up of heroes, so they can be led by Jason or Perseus, and you bring in other Greeks, and they, being led by a hero, gives you particular gifts and skills to all of your force. Or we've even got a mix and match. So if you just want to pick and mix your monsters and put them down and play, you can. But why we're really pleased with it at the moment is it actually works that you can take one of those factions. So you could take your Hades faction, and you could just take a normal Logos or a Persian warband, and they'll fight as well. So that we've play tested it to death to the point that we think it's quite balanced, and you can take a non-mythical force against a mythical force, and it still works. And so far that's true.
Would you be looking at including rules to allow sort of like hero-only factions?
Hero-only factions?
Yeah, I think like a small group of sailors.
Yeah, oh, I know the ones you're talking about. Yes, absolutely. Yes, because the way that it works, very much like Mortal Gods. So if you take the core set of Mortal Gods, you know it has what you could say the generic Greek cards, and by choosing your low cost, you choose that, you add your gifts, and that gives it its flavour. So again, with Mythic, you can take your hero. So I'll take Jason. I'll take some Argonauts. I will take some other named characters. And, by adding particular gifts to them and maybe adding some Greek slingers and giving them gifts, because taking Jason also gives your normal troops some mythic abilities. Away you go. There you go. There's your Jason and his Argonauts, or, another force that you might want to take.
Lovely. Now, for somebody who might already own quite a pile of Greek mythical figures,
Yes.
For some strange unknown
Yes.
reason. Yes.
would you just be sort of doing the cards and the
rules? Yes, absolutely. Absolutely. However,
doesn't mean that person won't go off and obviously buy the Argonauts and figures. It doesn't happen.
of course. However, all our monsters have been made by an ex-Forge World sculptor. So they're very, very desirable, I think.
Well, it's always nice to have several different types of monster.
Yes.
Never have too many.
Oh, indeed, and of course, several different interpretations by different sculptors.
Totally.
Well,
I agree, chaps. But what we've done is we've drawn from Harryhausen. So because of the way that for me, ancient Greece looks like this, and this is the way they are. I think the monsters need to. We haven't taken directly from. We've been inspired by. So the creatures and the monsters that we've had made could fit nicely into a Harryhausen film.
You do have to have the little mechanical owl.
No, we don't. No, we don't.
Just a skeleton. No, you do.
I think you've just.
You just found my ninjas.
Perhaps touched a nerve in it. Yeah. I think you hit a limit.
I want to see how far I can push it.
You just found my ancient Greece ninjas. There you go.
Yeah. Oh, a little mechanical owl would be lovely.
Yeah.
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 Move along.
Yeah. I've lost him, Neil. I've lost him. Pull it back.
Yeah. Oh dear me. Right. Oh. Okay. So Christmas then, or Christmas-ish. Oh, teasing. Oh, that sounds good. So, will it be a case of if you buy the creature, or would it be a case of creatures or however things are packaged for Mythic, everything you'd need to play that creature or that faction would be all included, or would it be a case of the figures will be separate to the cards that you need to play that faction?
Well, what we'll do is we'll offer faction sets. So you can, here you go, here's a Hades faction. There it is. He'll have the cards and everything with it. However, we believe that like I said, the creatures and stuff are so desirable, we're going to offer them on their own as well. Because some people may not want to play Mortal Gods. I can't understand why, but so they may want to buy those monsters. So we're going to make it available as well.
Cool, excellent stuff. Yeah, because let's face it, there's certain quite popular role-playing games that seem to have nicked a fair amount of Greek mythology for some of their creatures, and
nicked.
So. Well, you know what I mean. How these how these strange Greek mythological creatures suddenly turn up in some sort of fantasy realm.
Yes,
I do hope you're not talking about Glorantha. Me and you'll have a falling out.
I don't think ducks fit into Greek mythology somehow, mate. But we'll step away from that one. Right. Okay. So, cool. So that's Mortal God. So that sounds quite busy on its own. Yes. Right. Okay. So let's move on to the next question. At this point, this is basically a personal thing of going around my current wish list and going, okay, what's happening about this system? What's happening about this system?
Which is why we got you on, Andy.
Okay.
I'll be honest with you. I had no other reason than just so we could find out some gossip.
That's okay.
This is it. This is it. It's like right, okay. So obviously something else we've chatted about on several occasions is Testimony 2. So obviously that's now been re-released with between yourself and Grandaddy and that's under Graham's, or
It's great. Yeah, it's great for now.
Great for now. That's it. Great
Yep.
for now games. How's that gone?
It seems to have gone really well. I'll be honest. Test of Honor now is very much Graham's baby, and we came to an agreement that the Graham could take over, drive, and release it under his own business, which he's done with my input, and he'll probably say not a lot of it recently, but in all seriousness, I think he's created a beautiful product, and it's gone out there and been really well received.
Yeah, it is lovely. It's great what it's doing. Okay, so basically, me turning around and going, okay, do you know anything that's happening about Test of Honor 2? The answer is actually,
I do.
Oh, you do?
Oh yeah, of course. Yeah.
I'm just wondering,
Yeah. No. I'm still involved at that level. I still own Test of Honor with Graham. It's our game. But as we said, I'm quite busy with Mortal Gods, so it was easy to let him take it and run with it, really. And it's something he wanted to do.
Cool.
So
obviously it's kind of I think as we discussed, it's kind of moved back to its roots. Or moved a lot more back to the game that you originally designed, as opposed to how it was originally released. I think is the best way to phrase it. So in the light of that, where are we going next with it? What sort of direction is it going in? Because I know at some point there was talk of perhaps including starting to talk about things like Korea and what have you, but at the same time, I didn't know whether that's actually now in a direction that you've effectively moved away from, since you've moved a lot more back into the kind of less war and more kind of unarmored skirmish.
Yeah, I think the thing to think about with Test of Honor is Test of Honor for Graham and I is about 4.5 years old.
Yeah.
So we were play testing it for at least 2 years before Warlord released it. So it's had a couple of years out there with people playing it, and like I say, it was well received. But like with any game, some of the rules were challenged, and rightly so. And what Graham has done is he's gone back and he's gone through and he's updated and changed. And there's been a change to the game where it has honor and dishonor now. So before there was always being dishonorable, but there's also rules for being honorable as well. So it's become a different game. What he's doing at the moment with it is I think he's taking it more back to the cinematic roots.
Yeah.
So the first release that came out with the game itself, with version 2, was the Unlikely Allies.
Oh yeah, that's a brilliant set. Love that. Yeah. Beautiful box set, sculpted by a chap called Rob McFarlane, and he's one of my favourite sculptors at the moment. And he's made very characterful minis, all very different, but you can use them as their own force. But also you can use each of those individually and mix them into your own warband as well. And I think at the moment where Graham is going with this is he's creating a more narrative style game, and you can see that with the release of version 2, with how many more scenarios and are in the back, and ways to play are in the back, and the cards, and it's become a very, very, it's become, like you mentioned, it's become the game that how we envisaged it, that it was very much heroic, and you were writing a story as you played. It's very much back to being inside a Kurosawa film, isn't it? Yeah.
Totally, and that's what it should be, I think, and because that's how the game was always intended to be played. However, it doesn't mean that it's not going to go somewhere else. There is a lot of areas that you could explore. You touched on Korea. Koreans could be done. I know there's another set on the horizon. I don't think Graham's mentioned what it is, so I don't want to steal his thunder.
Cool.
But there's this, again, sculpted by Rob McFarlane. The miniatures are absolutely exquisite, because we're seeing them come through because Footsore is manufacturing and producing and packaging and shipping it all for Graham. So we're seeing the stuff come through. But we've talked about other things. We've talked about bringing in rules for clans. So actually having, specific clans to give character along with characters, like clan heroes and giving skills to each of those. So there's still a lot more that can be done with it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Is there any sort of plans to move into China?
Well, we could do, well, the Japanese tried many times to move into China and were very unsuccessful. So we potentially could. Again, I think the beauty of it is we've discussed a lot of places we could take this. I mean, could you imagine Chinese pirates with a turtle ships, aren't they, which they had, and all of that kind of stuff. Korea, you could have Dutch coming in. There's a lot of scope still for that game. So, ultimately, why I'm being a bit vague is ultimately now it's Graham's decision where it goes. Mm-hmm. So we're all feeding in, and he'll make a decision, and I'm really sure it'll be the right one.
Okay. So could I send Graham a box set of The Water Margin to watch?
Yes, definitely. Oh yeah. You send me a box set as well. I haven't seen it since I was a kid.
Me neither. I might go look it up in a minute.
Yeah, it's. Funny if we had a question from Lars, one of our listeners, saying, "Can you ask Andy what his thoughts are about the Legend of the Five Rings fan supplement?"
Oh, I think it's good. I love the Legend of Five Rings, but it is very specific. So yeah. I think I've seen people create some of the war bands that people are creating. It's great because they're letting the imagination run wild. Mm. So looking at those, I'm all for it. However, I wouldn't like to see it cross into the game itself, as in, someone brings a, crab war band and from Legend of Five Rings, I'm using my ordinary war band. I would see it as two different things. Does that make sense?
Yeah, you've got to air gap them, I think.
Yeah, in a similar sort of way, then you're probably not potentially looking at any sort of bringing in any going the fantasy route in the same way that you've done with Mortal Gods.
I'll tell you what, Neil, it's not up to me now. It's up to Graham. So I was always nope, we're not having that. No, ninjas are fantasy, aren't they? So if I had my way, they wouldn't have got in either. But however, Graham wants to include, fantasy creatures. Good luck to him.
Cool. Okay. Let's talk. Okay, let's go back and talk about something that perhaps you have a little bit more control of. Which is, I suppose, the other major game system that you've been known for recently, which is Gangs of Rome. Now that's obviously had a huge number of releases over the last 18 months now.
The pre-orders went up on the November, I think. So it'll be 2 years in November that they first went up for sale.
Cool. So, I mean, obviously we're now on to the second starter set with Bread and Circuses.
Mm-hmm.
I've had several people have been wondering, me amongst them, is where we are with Gangs of Rome. Obviously you've been releasing single miniatures, single characters, and then small groups. But where are we as far as Gangs of Rome development is concerned? Because I know at one point we were talking about the first campaign day we were. I think you were kicking around some campaign rules and stuff. So whereabouts are we with Gangs of Rome at the moment? Is there much in future development for that?
Yes, we there's a couple of things. Going back to figures, we released 2 box sets of Rome Most Wanted. So we have the Charioteers, and we have the Sons of Orcus. So they've come out. We have another 4 sets which are ready to be released.
Oh, cool.
Actually,
yeah.
So we have the veterans from the Aventine, which are ex-legionaries. We have the Daughters of Sappho, which from
Oh yeah, you were teasing them ages ago.
yeah, we have them all. Yeah, I know, it's crazy, isn't it? And that we haven't got around to it. We've got a set of priests, which are really interesting to play, and we have some drunks as well from the Circus Maximus. So all 4 of those sets are all done, painted, and we need to release them. To be honest, we just not slotted them in. The veterans will be the next thing that we release. So, and they're on the horizon, and we'll follow up with the sisters quite quickly. So both of those, the veterans are sculpted by Stavros. The sisters of Sappho, daughters of Sappho, are sculpted by Paul Hicks. So beautiful figures, all ready to go. Regarding the campaign, we're writing a campaign book, and it was going to be the release for Christmas last year, and we got it into a state where it was almost ready to go, and then some bright spark, i.e. me, came up with this great idea of, what if you want to fight outside of Rome? And we were like, oh yeah, well, we could do this, we could do that, we could do this, and all of a sudden, it grew into something else as well. So we didn't release it. We didn't get time to add all those bits in, and the reason we pulled it back was the ideas we had were really, really, we really felt that they should be added in, especially after playtesting. So we have this huge section of rules, which include things like night fighting, unstable platforms that you're climbing up, sewers, events in between games, injuries, including, your Dominus being able or your Domina leading your gang, building your gang, having more gang members than you have, and how you rotate them, experience running. Winning so many games that you run for Senate, a scenario builder, etc. Playing outside the city, different locations. So we have all of these things. We just haven't finished it, is the truth. And we haven't actually, got it to. The manuscript is almost done, and we just need to get it together and publish it. Really, that's where we are. So we're still very. Greece, I got distracted by Greece. Yeah. Not just me, but some of the guys. If I'm being honest, that's the honest thing. And but it's we love Gangs of Rome. We will come back to it as soon as we can.
Okay, so lots to look forward to, probably in the new year. Yeah.
I think so too, yeah. And we've also devised a really cool feature that to help you generate your gangs. So we hopefully, fingers crossed, will have that ready in the new year as well.
Excellent stuff. So no need to stop building Rome at the moment, because
absolutely not. No, absolutely not. And Sarissa keep going, come on, we've got loads more we want to release, and I'm like, we're getting there.
So they've got, because I know we saw, I know they teased, when they showed that that kind of that design picture they built of Rome, and kind of going, oh yeah, you when they had all the little bits that you could see.
Yeah.
And
yeah.
Oh, right. So, and I know that Paul was saying is that we've got all this stuff we kind of got designed and built. So there is still all this other stuff that's waiting to come out.
Oh, there's loads of stuff. There's fighting on ships, all sorts of things. Fighting inside of buildings, loads of stuff that is just going to knock the game on a bit further. We think that, as the game is at the moment, it's a great fun game to throw down and play. What we want to do is evolve it to the next level where you want to keep coming back and playing and building on what you're doing. Yeah, that's the idea.
Yeah. So because obviously the big thing is with this kind of small warband style of thing, it's it's back to all about the campaign system and building your own little gang. And I suppose that's the kind of thing that it's been lacking. So it's good to hear that is actually going to be coming out. That's cool.
Good.
Excellent stuff. Right. Well, that's kind of caught up on where we are with most things at the moment. I mean, before we go on to what's due in the imminent future, I mean, is there anything else you've got going on with Footsore at the moment?
Not really, I think.
Well, you're kind of
obviously
busy enough.
Yeah, we are. We're reviewing a lot of our Dark Age stuff at the moment. We're a Dark Age company.
Yeah.
Which releases, that's where Footsore, as any, most people know, it came from Musketeer into Footsore through Bill Thornhill, and with his lovely Dark Age range of miniatures. And it's just mental that we are a Dark Age company and we haven't got a Dark Age game.
Yeah.
So we've written one.
Ooh.
So that's our big release for early next year.
Oh, so is that kind of penciled in for? Is that kind of be your big kind of salute release, or are you looking to do it earlier?
Fingers crossed, it will be for salute. Yeah. So what we're going to do is release a set of rules and everything that will allow you to take all of our current Dark Age miniatures and play our game with them.
Nice. Nice little skirmish game again.
Oh, absolutely. There's a theme.
Yeah. Not knocking it.
Oh,
but,
no, not at all. That's as I say, that's kind of that's kind of taking on the elephant in the room, isn't it? That one is.
It has. Well, what we've done is we've written the rules in a way. We've evolved again the skirmish system that initially was Test of Honor, where it's forked into Mortal Gods. We've now taken it further, I believe, and it's become a different incarnation of the same system. But with this one now, you can rank up, you can have units, you have organised troops, trained troops, green troops, all of these different factors that's going to make the game feel very different. So you can play a true, some people would say a true skirmish with 5 to 10 models, or you could play more of a Dark Age pitch battle, maybe 90, 100 models if you want to, and everything in between there. I mean, I would stick about 30 models because it's me. They're the type of games I'll play. It will allow you to play across all of that.
Is it going to be a sort of unique game, or are you going to go sort of down the route of? You sort of say that you can play with sort of 5, 10 figures, so I'm kind of go down to individuals as well.
Yeah, absolutely. Going to individuals. I mean, there's bits about Test of Honor and Mortal Gods that I really, really love, and these are games I've worked on and developed, so I really like the way that the activation system works. So that you can be pretty sure that that's going to be in there. Besides that, it's all fair game, really.
Yeah. And doesn't we have to try and play what's Andy's line in the sand? The figures. So what can it be for Dark Ages?
Mr. Hobbs, I think I think considering your heritage, I think that's your department. So
okay.
I'll let you push various buttons and see at what point Andy winces.
Which one works? Yeah.
Yeah.
But it will be a narrative style game again, like the others. So I see great Viking heroes and Saxon lords, slugging it out. Irish warriors, looking for glory. It'll be that type of game, but there'll be shield walls, there'll be, boar's heads, there'll be more cavalry formations, because obviously the Normans will come in with their stirrups and splatter everybody.
Yeah,
yeah. So it'll feel kind of the same, but it will evolve again. That's the idea.
Cool, cool. And can I put a request in that we stopped calling it the Dark Age period, and start calling it what our good friend of the show, Pear, calls it, where it is in fact the Scandinavian colonial period.
Yeah, indeed, most definitely.
That's the first time I've heard that. That is so right.
It was, the first time Pear said that to us, that was just like, I'm sorry. It's just brilliant.
It's so true. It's so true. Norse Gaels, yeah, they're Scandinavian. Normans, yeah, they're Scandinavian. Anglo-Saxons, yeah, they're Scandinavian. Yeah. Yes. You could argue that the Picts were, yeah, okay.
Just don't tell Picts.
Yeah. Good man.
Excellent stuff. Oh, cool. Lots to look forward to then. Wow. And that's before we get on to what's coming. Well, as we record this imminently. Yeah, so the question has to start with, why Baron Wars?
You know how much I like Samurai?
Yeah.
I like the Barons' War period as much.
Wow. Okay.
So that's why. And both, you guys might remember. Do you remember a game called Cry Havoc by Standard Games?
I don't know.
No, it was a hex.
I vaguely remember it. Yeah.
It was a hex-based game that was created by a chap called Gary Chalk, and he did. There was the first one was Cry Havoc, and it was set in the 13th century. So you had knights, you had spearmen, you had bowmen, you had peasants, and all of that. And it was a real skirmish game where they just had chits, and you flip them. So you had a knight where he was healthy, you'd flip him over, he was injured, etc., etc. Scenario game, and you could easily swap those out for figures. So I would say that, and another game by them called Samurai Blades was the first two real war games that I played, and it was probably before I was even a teenager. So we're talking nearly 30 odd years ago, 35 years ago.
Yeah.
So because of those games and those periods, that's what got me diving into historical gaming, really. So I read everything I could about samurai, and for me, as we said early on, a medieval knight was a guy in mail armor with a surcoat with a helm or a nasal helm, and it was just fired my imagination. It stayed with me for all that time. So really, that's the reason behind it. So from playing Cry Havoc and then finding out in the rule book there was a little booklet that you got with it with a bit of background about the different knights. I devoured that, 11-year-old Andy devoured that, and then it was 13th century, so I went away and I started reading everything I could find on the 13th century, Middle Ages, and then I found out about the Barons' Wars and King John, and at the time you think King John, Robin Hood, Richard the Lionheart, early Crusades, and I just disappeared down the rabbit hole, really.
Yeah. As I say, because I mean, in some ways, the Baron Wars tends to get it doesn't get an awful lot of love, does it? Because most people, if you start talking about medieval gaming, most people tend to either gravitate towards 100 Years' War, or they'll gravitate to later and go into War of the Roses. There's not a tremendous amount that have been done with the Baron Wars, is there?
No, and to be fair, I can understand why, because the first Barons' Wars lasted for about 2 years, so it was 1215 to 1217. However, a lot went on before that and around it. So if you think Richard the Lionheart died, I think 1199, and John took over. At that point, King John, and it's like it is in the films, King John's the evil old king, and he obviously hasn't got the maid Marion, but he's an unjust and some would say corrupt king. I'm sure some people argue that, but he was pretty incompetent, really, and he went to France, and as you can you're probably aware, the Kingdom of France and the Kingdom of England are still pretty tied up because of obviously the Norman invasion, and then there would be barons in England owning land in France and vice versa, and the French, Edward I had totally crushed France, and he was in control there, and then when he died and Richard took over, but Richard was so more interested in the Crusades that the French encroached, and there's that whole dynastic struggle going on between countries that it's really quite interesting, and I, for me, I think it all kind of just sets up for that period, because when John in early 1202, 1203, John goes to France and he's trying to reclaim all his lands, of his family lands that he had over there, and it was a complete disaster. And what he did is he lost Normandy and he lost, all these other regions. And I think that at that point it impacted. It was a real change around around medieval England, and he to do that. To do that campaign, he raised massive taxes in England. He started to bleed all the barons dry, which they weren't happy about. As he was losing, he got more bad-tempered, and he treated a lot of these quite loyal men badly. So by the time it all fell into rack and ruin, and he came back to England with his tail between his legs in 1214, the barons had had enough at that point, and you get some real interesting skirmishes and battles going on, for the sake of England. So for me, I find it a really interesting period. And then to top it all off, John's come back and he's stung and he's upset about what's gone on. It's like a wounded lion, really. The barons raise up against him, and he's not having it. So as it all kicks off, he is totally merciless with them, and his early encounters in England, because a lot of the barons stayed loyal to the crown as well. Some of the key players, he had really the advantage, and he pressed that home. And only when the rebel barons asked Prince Louis at the time, who became King Louis, to come in, the French came in, and it became a real stalemate and quite interesting. It became quite a dynastic conflict.
Yeah.
So if you're doing sort of figures for this, and I'm guessing the game as well, are you going to sort of just concentrate on the Barons War, or are you going to look at sort of the overall period and sort of look at what's going on in France and up in Scotland?
No, good, absolutely good question. I mean, the range of figures I'm doing is for the Barons War, and I'll be honest, this is, we talked about this a bit earlier, that this is a period that, as you can probably tell, I'm quite passionate about. So I'm releasing these figures really for me.
I completely get that, and I back you up all the way.
And it's not a Footsore project. It's an Andy Hobday project with Paul Hicks. Me and Paul are old mates, so I twisted his arm to help me on this. So we're kickstarting it really, and it was a project that we were going to do as part of Footsore a couple of years ago, and we never got round to it. And because we're totally backed up with projects, as you now know, we're doing Mythic and the Dark Ages, and we've got something else for Christmas next year. I just couldn't wait any longer, so I'm taking it to Kickstarter. I funded so far all the sculpts myself, and I need help through Kickstarter to produce them. So if it goes well, what I'll do is I'm going to reinvest everything, if we make anything from it, back into this project. I'll ask Paul to make some more, and I will finish off the rules. So going back to what you're asking, I foresee that the rules will go all the way from about 1096, 1097. I think that's around the First Crusades.
Yeah.
So we'd have the even the Matilda and the Anarchy, and as really it'll be coming out at the end of the First Crusades. We'd get the Anarchy in there, and then we'll go all the way to the Bruce. So Edward II going up to Scotland.
Yeah.
So to 1320. So we'll have rules for all of that, is what I would like to do, and then we will release faction lists and stuff so you can play them all.
Fantastic. It'll make Mike from Footsore Miniatures very happy, because he's really interested in that period, and he'd be doing a lot of research in it's his hometown, wasn't it, Neil? Saying about this, where he was born. That was an important part just before the Barons War.
Oh, he loves it all. Yeah, Mike loves. He's a big fan. I've already sent him some sculpts back from when we had the initial ones done about a year ago. So definitely be including him. He's a big fan. I've been trading otters for nights, as you do.
As you do.
Where'd you do it? Yep.
Yes. I mean,
so about this Baron Wars fantasy game, man.
hang on a second. Right, okay, Before you try and push that button, and Andy rings off in disgust. Let's get a bit more information now. Right, okay, so
Mm-hmm.
Figure range with Paul Hicks.
Yes.
What are you hoping to launch as part of the project?
We have about 40 figures done.
Right.
So we have spearmen, bowmen, foot knights, mounted knights, monks, and characters. There'll be an initial range of 10 packs, and if we hit, the target, then I'll release some more, and as stretch goals. We've got some characters to add in, which we'll add as well for pledge levels. Yeah, you can tell I'm not used to Kickstarter copy. Yes, help me fund it, guys. That's all I want. What we will do is we set the level at an amount I personally need to pay Footsore to produce it.
Yeah.
So if we hit that, we'll have a range of figures, first 10 packs, and we'll be able to do that. The idea is, because all the sculpts are done, the masters are done, Footsore will be able to make the molds, and we'll have all of those hopefully in people's hands by December.
Oh wow!
So
yeah, really.
Oh yeah. Really quick. I think it's the beauty of being able to work with Footsore, which for me is obviously a known entity. They can make the molds, they can pack the stuff, and we can get it out really quickly. So that's a big thumbs up. It really is. And I'm sure lots of people do this. We're using Kickstarter for what I believe it's really for, which is to help us deliver on this project.
Yeah.
So that's where we are. If it's successful, what I will do is I will finish the rules. I'm personally, as you can tell, I really like this period of time. And don't get me wrong, the figures, you could use the figures probably up to the Second Barons' War, and they could probably go to the Third Crusade, maybe definitely the Fourth and the Fifth Crusade. You could paint them all up as Crusaders. So, and use them for lots of other periods as well. So, it's not. I'm calling it the Barons' War because that's a period that I associate this with. But people can take these figures and use them for anything that they fit for, or fantasy, or that kind of thing. They even look like Bretonians. So if you want to buy them and put them in your Bretonian army, you could. And as they're sculpted by Paul, they're cracking sculpts. But like I say, if it's successful, I will take that as a green light that people do want me to write a set of medieval rules and to expand on this range, and I will push the button and finish all this, so we'll have a game out next year.
So this is the as discussed before we came on air, this is the fabled perhaps I suppose now defunct War Banner.
Yes,
but yeah, I mean, I'm not going to go down the whole. What are we calling out? What name are we calling our company this week?
Let it go, Neil. Let it go. Back up.
Yeah.
Because the last time I mentioned I mentioned that to you, that went down like a lead balloon. I could tell.
Yeah. Well, no, it's all good. It all ended amicably, which is good. But yes, this is. When people asked us about the name War Banner as a company and where we were moving, this is where it came from. Right. For me, yeah, it came from the Barons' War.
Cool. Yeah, it was that bit where you came along to the where we saw the first Mortal Gods playtest day, and you had these dice with medieval symbols on it, and obviously some of the chits and stuff. And I looked at you, and you looked at me, and you kind of went, yeah, that's for something else. So
you know.
So this is the something else. Yeah, okay, cool.
Yes, this has been something I've been wanting to do for 2 years now. It really is. I mean, I've done Test of Honor Tick with a samurai skirmish game with Graham. Totally over the moon how that was received and that people like it and play it. This is my other big passion, and I really want to do something good with this.
Cool. Okay, so some of the nitty gritty. When does the Kickstarter launch?
This Sunday, which is the 15th of September, and it goes live at 5 p.m.
Cool. And how long is it running for?
Only for 2 weeks.
2 weeks.
So it'll run till the 29th, which is Sunday the 29th. We may eke it into the 30th because obviously people have already said, "Oh, I don't get paid till the 30th."
I was going to say, I'm going to say, let's get a payday included in this, please.
it will, by the time it finishes, it probably won't take it till the next day. I say probably, but so there'll be a payday included.
Most excellent. So 40-ish miniatures, depending on how well it does. And then we kind of go from there.
10 packs.
10
yeah,
packs.
Absolutely. 10 packs. The idea is that there's only 3 pledge levels. You pledge £1 to come in. And when you pledge £1, you can then pledge as much. You go into the pledge manager and you choose how many packs you want to buy. So I want all 10 packs. Great. Okay, that's £70. Bang, done. So you pledge £70. When it finishes, you'll get one of each. Or you can go and buy 2 of this pack, 4 of that pack, or whatever you want to do. So try to keep it as simple as possible. The second pledge level, we were asked for resin. So when we made the masters, we made them in heat resistant resin because it keeps all the detail better, etc. We've kept those molds, and we'll take 30 pulls out, and once they're dead, that's it, gone. So there'll only be 30 sets in resin. And we're offering that as the next pledge level. And then Paul, the beauty of working with Paul is Paul said, I tell you what I'll do. I'll sculpt a miniature for people, we'll do 2. And he said, if someone pledges, then I'll sculpt them any miniature that they want. And they can have all the rights and the sculpt and everything to that. So if you want to put yourself in the game as a Baron, you'll get him to sculpt a miniature exactly how you want it, on foot or on horse or however you want to do it, and a set of all the miniatures. And that's it. That's keep it simple.
Excellent.
Nice. Do you think, Neil, you could get a picture, a nice figure of you as Friar Tuck?
Oh, that was harsh.
But fair.
Yeah, yes.
Let's face it. I had the figure for it. Yeah. Thank you, Mr. Hobbs.
Anytime, Mr. Shuck.
Great stuff. So live, say imminently, and all done and dusted by Christmas.
Yes, definitely.
Maybe
unless
it goes absolutely crazy, I expect.
If it goes absolutely crackers, then maybe January. But excuse me, talking to the guys at Footsore, they're pretty confident they can get that up. Even if I'm in at night casting, we'll get them out.
Brilliant stuff. Well, Andy, thank you very much for that swift and concise update on where everything is with all your babies. It's, as I say, you've been pretty busy over the last, well, as you say, going back 4 years now, I suppose, with Test of Honor. But I mean, so you kept things rolling. You've been pretty prolific, haven't you? In what you've been producing.
Absolutely.
So
it keeps me out. It keeps me out of mischief.
I was going to say, keeping yourself busy.
Yeah.
Yeah. So thank you so much for coming on and letting us know where what's been happening with everything. Really appreciate you taking the time out to chat to us. Yes, looking forward to spending some money with you in the next couple of weeks.
Very appreciated. Thank you.
No, as I say, I mean, if people have you got a specific Facebook group for the Baron's War stuff yet? Or,
no, but if you go to my page,
that's been on your Facebook page, isn't it? Yeah,
it has. Yeah, it's all on there.
Yeah, so obviously, well, by the time you hear this, the Kickstarter should be up and running. So we'll make sure we've got a link to that in the show notes. But these sculpts are really nice. Paul's been doing a great job with them. So looking forward to it, mate. So all the very best with the Kickstarter and all the other projects that you have on all the other irons you have in the fire. So much stuff to look forward to. So I mean, at this point, I think what we'll do, we'll go off air, and then I'll just write you a direct debit.
Brilliant.
Because it sounds like I'm going to need it for the next year or so.
Can I just say a big thank you for letting me come on again? It's always a pleasure catching up with you two guys.
That's great, mate. Anytime. Love to chat. And so appreciate it. So, so as I say, all the very best. Hopefully, we'll get to catch up with you. We'll get to catch up with you soon in the new year, and we'll get another update and yes, find out everything that's been going on since.
Great stuff. Catch you later.
Cool. Thank you.
Take care. Bye. And then there was a tiramisu which Henry had. It looked fantastic. It was all light and beautifully made, homemade, obviously. A little bit of liqueur afterwards, and then we were tied to another pub and we had a couple of beers. It was just a good night. How long have I been talking?
I don't know. I mean, I've been out for an Italian. Yeah, you may be so hungry. I just had to take a break and get some food. Right, okay. So yes, sounds like a really good night. And wow. So in the meantime, I want to say thank you to Mr. Hobday for coming on the show. As I said, I hope I hope you enjoyed that insight into what's going on in the world of Footsore Miniatures and all things skirmish gaming.
Mm.
Yes, it's
A
interesting.
good part of the hobby is skirmish gaming. I like it.
It's interesting, I was thinking because obviously, due to this conversation that has been ongoing about skirmish gaming not being proper gaming, and I was thinking, when was the last time I actually played a, for want of a better phrase, a proper war game.
Well, probably the last time you played any game. Probably the last time you played any game, because all games are proper. Oh, you're talking about the old style.
Honestly, on a proper set of rules, a proper set of rules using a tape measure and stuff on at least a 6x4 table. And come to think of it, other than umpiring some games of Ducks Brit, it's probably been the best part of a couple of years. Because I've been doing skirmish gaming rubbish. I'm trying to think. Well, I'll have to look back and find out when my last game of something like Chain of Command was. I mean, I think since I played Chain of Command, I've probably played a game of Legion. Although people will probably argue that Legion isn't a proper war game because you use funny dice, and you don't use a proper tape measure. It's these strange measuring stick things. So that's not a proper war game, really, is it?
I'm not getting involved in this.
I'll take my tongue out of my cheek and then we'll go from there. Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
Because you know my opinion, which is all games are proper.
Indeed. And as I thought, I suddenly went, well, if it wasn't for small skirmish games and things like dungeon bashes and stuff, I wouldn't have had a gaming hobby for the past at least 18 months. Best part of 2 years, but there we go.
And you could have cracked on and got some painting done.
I could, yeah. I could have got enough painting done to actually to actually game a proper war game.
Actually play a proper game.
Yeah, I know.
Yeah.
It's terrible. Well, what on earth am I playing at? I don't know. I should be thoroughly ashamed of myself. In fact, I've let myself down. I've let the listeners down. It's terrible.
I'm surprised you can carry on with this podcast.
And so we come to that point.
Wrap it up now.
Yeah, I think we should. Yeah, I think anyway. We come to that point of the show where we normally talk about what days bought this week. There's one slight problem. Dave's been an oldie. So although I've seen him to game a couple of times, he's been decidedly reticent in talking about anything he's actually bought. Although I did happen to notice on Monday that he has put paint on plastic. He has been actually painting some of his Cruel Sea starter set.
Oh, cool!
So it's not fully there yet, but it's getting there. So I'm actually looking forward to grabbing a game of that at some point once he's finished painting once he's finished painting his models. So I'm looking forward to that. That was so. Unfortunately, there is no news on the What Has Day Bought This Week front because I'm out for a curry with him tomorrow night. So I might, once I plied him with, with enough tandoori prawns, I might actually get an answer out of him. You never know.
How many did you supply him?
And therein is a question that you really don't want an answer to at this time of the evening. No. Right. So I think on that note, it's about time we got out of here, isn't it?
I think so. Yeah. I've got to do some packing.
Oh, indeed, yes, because Shock. Yeah, you're just about to abandon the country, aren't you? And go off in search of sun and wine and food.
Yep, I'm off to parts foreign. I'm off to the Black Sea to investigate the kingdom of Thracians. I'm going to Bulgaria. The Thracians used to live there a few thousand years ago. Anyway, I'm going there.
All right. So are you planning on doing any historical research while you're out there?
Yeah, we're going to go to Nezabar, the old town of Nezabar, which is it is actually an old Thracian town, and I might look into the battle sites, which was just outside where the Bulgars took on the Byzantines in, I think, about the 14th century. No, 13th century, I think.
Because you do like your Byzantines, don't you?
I do, yeah. Have a look at that.
As much as you like your Persians or not?
Ooh, probably Persians more. I got to think about Persians. I always liked them. Pretty army and lots of different things.
So I was going to say, that's
the way, you know.
That's the same with Byzantines, isn't it? I mean, that kind of defines both of them, doesn't it?
Pretty much, yeah. Similar parts of the world as well. I know. Well, I just got to think about Cyrus the Great. Came from nothing, did well, died early. His son's messed it up.
Excellent stuff. Right, well, in that case, enjoy your holiday.
Mm-hmm.
We'll find out how you got on pretty much almost as soon as you get back, because we are due for. I think we're recording our next podcast at the point where you get off the plane, aren't we? Pretty much.
Just afterwards. So yeah, there will be no break in the releases, so people don't have to get upset, thinking that we're gonna not do a show.
No, I'm a slave driver. It's terrible.
Yeah.
So yes, we will be. And I mean, one of the reasons behind that is because actually we're recording the next show a bit later in the month than we would normally do, because the next show will be our next patron show, for which we will be having a special guest third chair, which if I'd have actually fixed the result, as Mr. Hobbs claimed that I had, at least if I'd have fixed it, I'd have fixed it at such a time when he was still in the same time zone as we are.
Yeah, that's true.
As opposed to on the opposite side of the planet.
I don't know why he lives in Australia. It's full of spiders and stuff.
Yeah. So that's a clue as to who we will be speaking to an Antipodean on our next show. And and we will look forward to that. But it'll be a bit of a head down and go to get that edited out before the end of the month. All being well, even if it drops on the 30th of September, I'll make sure that we get that out to you before the end of the month. Okay, well, thank you, Mr. Hobbs, for joining me for the show.
Thank you, Neil, for inviting me once again. It's been lovely to be here.
Indeed, great to catch up. Yet again, well done on the mammoth painting projects. I mean, you have been a hobby demon this year. You have just done so much. It's untrue. I mean,
we all done. You know, you've done lots of gaming, I've done lots of painting.
This is
We
it.
should sort of blend together and we'd be a perfect gamer. We'd have no life, but we'd be a perfect gamer.
Yeah. Indeed. Right. And on that note, and that vision that we have just instilled into people's brains, I think it's time to get out of here. So yeah, thank you all for listening. I hope you've enjoyed the show. And all being well, we will chat to you again in a couple of weeks. So until then, take care. Happy gaming. We'll speak to you soon.
Bye.
Thank you for listening to the Meeples and Miniatures podcast. If you've enjoyed the show, why not share it with others by leaving us a review on iTunes? And if you have any comments or questions, you can always email the show. The address is info@meeplesandminiatures.co.uk. And you can also visit our webpage, where you'll find a complete episode archive, all the View from the Veranda podcasts, rules reviews, and our blog of hobby items and news, which is updated several times a week. This is also where you'll find the links to our presence on social media. And here you can follow us on Twitter or join our Facebook group. And finally, here you can also find details should you wish to support us by making a donation to the podcast. All this on the Meeples and Miniatures website, www.meeplesandminiatures.co.uk. The Meeples and Miniatures podcast is licensed under a Creative Commons Attribution, Non-Commercial, No Derivatives 3.0 Unported license. Thanks again for listening, and we'll see you in a couple of weeks.